The doctor slid me a note that said, "Don't go home. Run." And in that moment, I realized someone I loved wanted me dead. My name is Elena Hayes, I'm 36 years old, and until that night, I lived what I thought was a quiet, unremarkable life. A stable marriage, a predictable routine, and a home I believed was safe. But one sentence on a torn piece of paper destroyed all of that. What happened next? No woman should ever have to face. The doctor didn't whisper when he handed me the note. He pushed it into my palm with a force that told me this wasn't a warning. It was a countdown. The fluorescent lights buzzed above us, cold and too bright, making it impossible to pretend this was just a misunderstanding. I looked at him, confused, scared. "Dr. Miller, is this real?" His voice trembled. "Elena, you need to leave the hospital quietly. Right now. Don't go home. Don't call anyone. Not your husband. Not your family. No one." "My husband," I repeated, breathless. "What does he have to do with this?" He shut the door, locked it, and leaned in so close I could see the panic in his eyes. "Elena, someone hacked into your medical records last night. All of them. Files dating back over a decade. And they accessed details they should never have seen. Sealed prenatal documents, psychological evaluations, private notes." The world around me tilted. "No," I whispered. "Those records were locked. A judge ordered." "I know," he said. "But someone still got through." My heart was pounding so loud I barely heard his next words. "And the person who did it used your husband's credentials." My blood turned to ice. Dr. Miller's hands tightened around mine. "Whatever he's planning, he's been preparing for it. You're not safe with him. You're not safe tonight." I tried to stand, but the fear made my legs buckle. He caught my arm. "Elena, listen to me. If you go home, you won't come back." That's when we heard it. Low. Deliberate. The doorknob turned. "Elena." My husband's voice called from the hallway. "To come. Are you in there? We need to talk." Dr. Miller mouthed one word. "Run." The moment I heard my husband's voice outside the door, the air inside the small consultation room tightened like a fist closing around my throat. "Elena," he called again, his knuckles tapping the door slowly, rhythmically, as if he had all the time in the world. Dr. Miller's grip on my arm hardened. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. "Do not answer," he mouthed. My pulse hammered against my ears so violently I thought the whole building could hear it. I took a step backward, my shoes barely making a sound on the sterile linoleum floor. But even that tiny movement felt deafening. The doorknob clicked again. Twisted. Held. Twisted again. A quiet chuckle escaped from the other side. Not loud, just wrong. "Sweetheart," he said gently, too gently. "I know you're in there. We drove here together, remember? Don't make this strange." Dr. Miller acted first. He pointed behind me. A narrow emergency door hidden behind a privacy curtain. A back exit. In a private office. I didn't even know it existed. He moved the curtain just wide enough for me to see the thin metal bar with a bright red sticker. "Emergency only, alarm will sound." I looked at him in horror. The alarm would echo down the whole hallway. My husband would hear. He would know exactly which direction I ran. Dr. Miller leaned in until our foreheads almost touched. "Elena. The alarm is better than a funeral." My stomach lurched. A shadow appeared under the door. My husband's shoes shifting, adjusting, listening. "I'm coming in," he warned, almost pleasantly. "We'll talk like adults." Dr. Miller whispered. "Now." I pushed through the curtain, my palm closing around the cold horizontal bar. I felt a split second of hesitation, a tiny, traitorous part of me still believing my husband couldn't possibly want to hurt me. Then I saw it. A thin, metallic reflection under the door. He was holding something. Tool. Keycard. Something to force the lock. My body reacted before my mind could. I slammed down on the bar. Brrr! The alarm screamed through the hospital. The door burst open. icy night air flooding my lungs as I stumbled out into a dimly lit parking corridor behind the medical wing. Elena! My husband's voice exploded into the hallway behind me. Furious now, stripped of its fake sweetness. Ran. Cold concrete. Metal railings. A staircase spiraling downward. My legs moved without coordination, without rhythm, but they moved. My hands scraped the wall as I half fell down the steps. Behind me, the metal door banged open. Elena, stop. His voice wasn't angry anymore. It was commanding. Authoritative. A tone he only used when he needed control. Absolute control. I hit the bottom of the stairs and shoved the exit door with my shoulder. It opened into the back parking lot, where only a handful of security lights flickered. Dr. Miller's last words echoed in my skull. Someone hacked sealed court records. He used your husband's credentials. If you go home, you won't come back. My breath came out in ragged gasps as my eyes darted around the lot. Where do I go? What do I do? Who can I trust? My phone buzzed suddenly in my pocket, loud, vibrating against my ribs. Froze. I knew that ringtone. My husband. Again. I didn't answer. I didn't move. The buzzing stopped, then returned immediately. I forced myself to look. 12 missed calls. 6 new messages. The last one made my blood run cold. If you leave this hospital, you'll regret it. Come back inside. Now. A movement caught my eye. Far across the lot, a tall figure stepping out from behind a row of cars. Whoa. No. He was faster than I expected. Closer than he should have been. He raised one hand, gesturing for me to stop. As if this were a normal fight. As if this were marriage. Elena, he called softly. Why are you running from me? You're scaring me. Scaring him. My chest clenched with nausea. This man, the one I'd shared a home with, was looking at me like prey. I took one step back. Then another. He tilted his head, almost amused. You left your purse in the car. You'll need it. I didn't speak. I didn't blink. Then he smiled. Not kind. Not loving. Calculated. As if this was all unfolding exactly the way he wanted. Elena, he said, come here. Something deep inside me, something older than fear, snapped awake. I turned and ran again, sprinting across the asphalt toward the street, my lungs burning with every step. I didn't know where I was going, only that I needed distance, shadows, witnesses, anything. Behind me, I heard him shout my name again. But this time it wasn't gentle. It was a promise. Threat. A vow to find me. And in that moment I finally understood. The note wasn't a warning about what might happen. The note was a warning about what had already begun. I didn't stop running until the cold air clawed at my throat and the hospital lights became distant, blurry stars behind me. The parking lot ended at a narrow road lined with silent office buildings, their windows dark like watching eyes. My body wanted to collapse. My mind wanted to shut down. But something deeper inside me, instinct, fear, survival, whispered, "Don't stop. Not yet." I leaned against a lamppost, gasping for breath, my heart pounding so loudly it drowned out the crickets and the distant traffic. My husband's silhouette was no longer visible, but I knew he hadn't given up. He never gave up when he wanted control. I reached into my pocket, searching for my phone, desperate to call someone. Anyone. But the screen lit up again immediately with another message. Husband. You're overreacting. Come back. Another. You're embarrassing us. I'm warning you, Elena. Felt sick. Not because of the messages, but because I recognized his tone. This was the voice he used right before something bad happened. The voice of a man who had already decided what would happen next, and who would pay for disobeying him. I lowered the phone. That's when I noticed something. Car parked across the street. Not running but occupied. The silhouette of a man in the driver's seat. Sitting perfectly still. Watching me. My breath froze in my chest. Under the glow of the streetlight, the outline of the car slowly became clear. A dark gray sedan. Not my husband's, Not anyone I recognized. The man inside didn't move. Didn't react. Didn't pretend to look away when I stared at him. He was just waiting. Every alarm in my body screamed at once. I stepped back from the lamppost. The man opened his door. Not quickly. Not aggressively. Just slow, deliberate. I spun around and ran in the opposite direction, down the sidewalk, toward the rows of closed storefronts. My shoes slapped the pavement, echoing off the empty buildings. Behind me I heard the car door shut. And then the unmistakable sound of footsteps following. I didn't look back. If I did, I was afraid I would freeze. The doctor's warning repeated in my skull. Someone accessed sealed records. He used your husband's credentials. You are not safe. My lungs burned as I rounded the corner into a dim alley between two shops. I didn't plan it. My body just moved, acting on instinct, on whatever survival mechanism woke up inside me tonight. The alley was narrow, lit only by a flickering bulb near the back door of a laundromat. Trash bins lined one wall, cardboard boxes stacked against the other. The air smelled of stale oil and damp concrete. I pressed myself behind one of the large dumpsters just as the footsteps grew louder near the entrance of the alley. My hands trembled uncontrollably. I forced them over my mouth to stop my breathing from shaking the air too loud. A shadow stretched across the ground. Long, low, creeping into the alley like something not quite human. The man stepped into view. Dark jacket, hands in his pockets, head turning just slightly as he scanned the shadows. I recognized him. Not personally, but from earlier. He had been in the hospital lobby. He wasn't wearing scrubs or a visitor badge. He had stood near the vending machines, not watching anyone, just standing, almost like he was waiting for someone to make a move, like he had been waiting for me. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs. He took another slow step deeper into the alley. Then another. He didn't call out. Didn't ask if I needed help. Didn't pretend to be lost. His silence was worse than any threat. I pressed myself flatter against the dumpster, biting down on my own knuckle to stop myself from making a sound. He stopped just a few feet from me. His shoes were inches from the edge of my hiding spot. I squeezed my eyes shut. Please, please go. Please leave. Please. Phone rang. Not mine. He answered immediately. Yes, he said, his voice low and clipped. Not yet. She ran. Another pause. I'm looking. My stomach dropped. Another voice on the line, muffled but unmistakable, spoke. My husband. I recognized the rhythm of his words. Even through static. She can't get far. The man replied, I know. I'm on it. I felt everything inside me break and fracture in ways I didn't know were possible. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a nightmare. It was real. All of it. They were working together. My husband and this stranger had planned something. Something I was never supposed to discover. The man hung up, stood still for a long moment. He turned, walked out of the alley, and disappeared back toward the street. Waited, and waited, and waited until my legs were numb and my breath was ragged and every inch of my body ached. Only then did I dare step out from behind the dumpster. I wiped my face with shaking hands, trying to keep myself together long enough to think. Where could I go? Who could I trust? What was the doctor trying to warn me about? And most terrifying of all, what exactly was waiting for me at home? That made a doctor risk everything just to tell me to run. I didn't have answers. Not yet. But as I stepped out of the alley and disappeared into the night, one thing became painfully clear. Whatever had started tonight, it wasn't over. It was only the beginning. By the time I reached the edge of town, my legs felt like wet rope and my chest ached with every breath. Streetlights grew sparse, the night darker, quieter, heavier, as if even the world itself knew I shouldn't be out here alone. I stopped near a closed gas station, leaning against the wall beside an old newspaper vending machine. A security light flickered overhead, casting long, jittery shadows that made everything feel even more unstable. My phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to see his name again. But I knew I had to. Husband. Come home. We need to talk. Another. Stop being dramatic. Then the one that made my stomach twist. I know where you are. I looked around, panic rising like smoke in my lungs. No cars on the road. No one walking nearby. No movement in the trees across the street. But I didn't feel alone. Not at all. I stepped back under the flickering light, gripping the cold metal of the vending machine to steady myself. My thoughts spun in circles. I couldn't go home. Not after the doctor's warning. Not after the man in the car. Not after hearing my husband's voice giving orders. But then a new, horrible thought hit me. If I wasn't safe at home, what had been happening there the whole time? I tried to think back, to moments I'd brushed off. Small incidents that I had ignored because I wanted to believe my marriage was normal. Stable. Like the strange scratches I once found near the basement door. Or the nights my husband stayed awake long after I fell asleep, claiming he had work to finish, though he always closed the laptop the second I walked in. Or the sudden, unexplained rule he set. Don't go into the attic. I'd laughed at the time. Thought it was something silly like a leaking pipe or a loose board he didn't want me to fall through. But now, my skin prickled. What if it wasn't silly at all? My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a car approaching. Low. Deliberate. My heart dropped into my stomach. I pressed myself against the wall, watching the road with wide, terrified eyes. A white SUV crawled toward the gas station entrance. Its headlights dimmed as it rolled closer. The driver's window stayed up. The silhouette inside leaned slightly toward the side mirror. Enough to see, not enough to be seen. I held my breath. If it was him. If it was the man from the alley. The SUV eased past the pumps. Slowed. Paused as if scanning the lot. I stayed perfectly still. The driver looked left. Forward. Then continued down the road without turning in. Only when the taillights disappeared did I let out a shaky breath and slide down the wall until I was sitting on the cold concrete. I was not safe here. I was not safe anywhere familiar. Anywhere predictable. I needed help, but not from someone my husband could reach. I unlocked my phone again, scrolling through my contacts. Police. No. If my husband really had accessed sealed medical records using hospital credentials, he had connections, influence, people he could manipulate, friends. He'd pushed most of them out of my life over the years, subtly at first, then more aggressively. Family. It was just me left. My sister, Laura. We hadn't spoken in 2 years. Not after the last argument my husband had encouraged and fed until it exploded into a complete break. At the time I thought it was just us. But now I saw the truth. He wanted me isolated, alone, dependent only on him. I swallowed hard and pressed her name. Rang once. Third time. I almost hung up, until her tired voice cracked through the speaker. Elena. My eyes burned instantly. Laura. I whispered, my voice trembling. I need help. There was silence, but not the cold, angry kind. It was the kind filled with worry. What's wrong? She asked. I hesitated. How could I explain? How could I make her believe any of this? The sealed records. The doctor's note. The man following me. The feeling that my husband had planned something. Something terrible. I opened my mouth to speak. Sound cut through the air. Car door. Close. Very close. I looked over my shoulder. Another car had pulled into the gas station. This one black. Bleak. Familiar. My husband's. Elena. Laura asked on the phone. What's happening? I didn't answer. The driver's door opened. My husband stepped out. Even from across the lot, the way he moved made my skin crawl. Confident, unhurried, certain he would find me. Elena, he shouted, his voice echoing off the empty pumps. Enough. I ducked down behind the vending machine, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Laura kept talking, her voice rising in panic, but I held the phone against my chest to muffle the sound. My husband walked slowly between the pumps, scanning each shadow, each corner. He wasn't guessing. He knew I was here. He always knew. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. He got closer. 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 He stopped. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, dialed. A second later, mine vibrated silently against my palm. He looked around the lot. "Come out," he said softly. So softly it made me shiver. "We need to have a conversation." He turned, walked slowly around the far pump, leaving my hiding spot in the blind spot. And for the first time that night I saw an opening. Small one, but enough. I whispered into the phone, "Laura, I'm coming to you." Then I stood, ran across the back of the station, and disappeared into the darkness before he circled back. I didn't know how far I'd get. I didn't know what he planned. I didn't know why the doctor feared for my life. But I did know one thing. Going home would kill me. Running might save me. And whatever my husband had been hiding, I was going to uncover every piece of it. I didn't go home the next night either. I stayed awake in the motel room, sitting on the floor with my back against the wall, the doctor's notes still folded in my pocket like a burning brand. "Don't go home, run." I kept reading it, hoping the meaning would somehow change, soften, make sense. Never did. By midnight the motel fell silent. A truck passed once, its headlights slicing through the curtains. After that, nothing. Just me, the ticking of the dusty wall clock, and the growing feeling that someone knew exactly where I was. At 12:27 a.m., my phone vibrated. Unknown caller. My chest clenched. I let it ring. After the 8th vibration it stopped. A second later a text appeared. "I'm home. We can fix this." I stared at the message until my vision blurred. The words felt familiar, like something my fiancé, Ethan, might have said. Except it wasn't his number. And Ethan had never begged. He was the type who expected obedience, never asked for it. Another text came. "You can't stay there. They're on their way." My pulse hammered so loud that I almost didn't hear the soft thump on the wall behind me. Then another. And another. Froze. The sound continued. Slow, deliberate, like a fist pressing against the thin motel drywall. I crawled backward until I hit the opposite wall, breathing shallowly. The knocking stopped. Then a voice, muffled and low, whispered right through the wall. "You shouldn't have opened that envelope." My blood turned cold. I didn't answer. The voice didn't need me to. "You were supposed to be asleep. We watched you leave the clinic." The floor seemed to tilt. I forced myself to stand, legs shaking, and grabbed my bag. I needed to call 911, but a part of me knew with a sick certainty, that whatever this was, it was bigger than police, bigger than a domestic fight, bigger than a bad diagnosis. I bolted out the door. The night air hit me like a slap. The parking lot was empty except for my car and a black SUV parked diagonally across the far exit. The windows were tinted so dark they looked like polished stone. Someone was inside. Watching. I ducked behind my car, hands trembling too hard to fit the key in the door. The SUV door clicked open. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a jacket too heavy for the warm night. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. He walked slowly toward me, confident like he'd already won. "Stay where you are," he said, voice calm, rehearsed. "We're here to bring you back." "Back where?" I whispered. He didn't answer. He reached into his jacket. Adrenaline surged. I jumped into my car, slammed the door, locked it, and turned the ignition. The engine sputtered once, twice, then roared alive. The man lunged forward, hand reaching for the door. I floored the gas. My car shot backward, tires screeching, smoke kicking up off the pavement. I swerved around him and sped toward the exit, narrowly missing the SUV as it lurched forward to block me. I shot onto the road, heart pounding, fingers numb around the steering wheel. In the rearview mirror, the SUV pulled out behind me. Its headlights flashed once, like a warning. I didn't slow down. I raced down the empty highway, the dark trees whipping by on both sides. The SUV followed, keeping a perfect distance. Not chasing. Not losing me. Just tracking. My phone vibrated again. Stop running. Another message. We just want to talk. Another. The doctor isn't who you think. I threw the phone into the passenger seat. My eyes stung with tears. None of this made sense. Why me? Why that clinic? Why that doctor? And why had he known I was in danger before I even reached home? The SUV suddenly accelerated, closing the gap. I swerved into the next lane, but it mirrored every move, staying exactly behind me. Then its lights flicked off. The highway went black behind me. I couldn't breathe. For 3 miles, the only sound was my tires on the pavement and my heartbeat slamming in my ears. When the lights came back on, the SUV was gone. Completely. As if it had evaporated from the road. I didn't slow. I drove until the sky began to lighten with the first traces of morning. I stopped only when exhaustion made the wheel blur in my hands. A rest stop appeared on the right, empty and dimly lit. I parked under the lone street lamp. For the first time in hours there was silence. I leaned my head against the steering wheel, trembling from adrenaline and fear. I didn't know who the men were or what they wanted, but one thing had become terrifyingly clear. They weren't trying to scare me. They were trying to retrieve me. As if I were property. As if I had already been marked for something I didn't understand. As if going home wasn't the danger. Leaving the clinic had been. And the doctor, the only person who had tried to warn me, had vanished. I took a deep breath and whispered into the cold, quiet car. I need to find him. Because now I knew. Whatever was happening to me didn't start at home. It started in that examination room. With whatever he saw. Whatever he wasn't allowed to say out loud. And whatever he risked everything to warn me about. The rest stop bathroom had a flickering light and the smell of metal and cold water, but it was the first place all night that felt still. Safe wasn't the right word. Nothing felt safe anymore, but at least there were walls and no one whispering through them. I splashed water on my face. My reflection stared back, pale, hollow-eyed, shaking. I barely recognized myself. Pulled out my phone. The battery was at 18%. The messages from the unknown number filled the screen like bruises. I scrolled past them until I reached the call history. One missed call stood out. Dr. Hale. My breath caught. He had tried to call me before the unknown messages started. The timestamp was 12:24 a.m., 3 minutes before the knocking on the motel wall. I stared at his name. Why call me? What was he trying to say that the note couldn't? And why was he so sure I shouldn't go home? I clicked his number. Straight to voicemail. His voice played, steady, calm, professional. This is Dr. Hale. I'm unable to answer right now. Leave a message. I hung up before the beep. If he wasn't answering, I needed something else. Any clue, any thread to pull. I scrolled again and found the appointment reminder from earlier that day. It included the clinic's main number. My hands were trembling as I dialed. A robotic voice answered. Thank you for calling Ridgeway Medical Institute. Our office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4. Press 0. Then 0 again. Finally a click. A woman picked up. Ridgeway Medical, this is Karen. Hi, I said, voice shaking. I need to speak with Dr. Hale. It's urgent. There was a pause. I'm sorry, ma'am. Dr. Hale isn't available. When will he be available? I need to talk to him. He saw me yesterday and he gave me something. Another pause. Longer this time. Ma'am. Dr. Hale hasn't been in the office since Wednesday. My blood ran cold. That's not possible, I said. I saw him yesterday. During my checkup. He scanned my wrist, did some tests and... Ma'am, she said slowly. Dr. Hale was placed on administrative leave after an incident. He hasn't logged into the patient system or entered the building in 3 days. My mouth went dry. But I was in his exam room yesterday. I remember the lights. Cold table. He gave me. The receptionist inhaled sharply. Ma'am, what exam room? Room 3, I whispered. Like always. Silence. Room 3 has been closed for renovations. No one has used it since last month. She wasn't lying. I could hear the genuine confusion in her voice. The fluorescent light above me buzzed. The air felt too thin. What was the incident? I asked, barely breathing. I'm not allowed to discuss personnel matters, she said, suddenly guarded. But if you're in danger, you need to contact law enforcement. Click. The line went dead. My phone vibrated instantly. Unknown caller. I dropped it onto the counter. The floor felt like it was swaying beneath me. If Dr. Hale hadn't been in the clinic, if room 3 had been closed for weeks, then who examined me yesterday? And why had he looked exactly like Dr. Hale? A chill crawled up my spine. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a miscommunication. Whoever I met at the clinic, whoever scanned my wrist, whoever gave me that note, he was not a doctor. And the clinic didn't know he'd been there. I stuffed my phone into my pocket and stepped outside. The morning sun was creeping over the horizon, washing the empty rest stop in a dull orange glow. Birds chirped. A breeze rustled the trees. It was almost peaceful. But something was wrong. On the hood of my car sat a single sheet of paper, pinned under a small stone. Froze. Slowly I approached. The paper flapped lightly in the wind. My stomach twisted as I read the words printed across it. You have 36 hours. Stop digging. I'm home. My knees nearly buckled. On the bottom corner, someone had drawn a symbol. 3 intersecting circles with a vertical line slashed through the center. I had never seen it before, but the moment my eyes landed on it, something deep in me recoiled, like my body recognized a threat my mind couldn't name. I grabbed the paper with shaking hands and looked around. No cars, no footsteps, no voices, no sign of anyone. But someone had been close enough to place this on my hood. Close enough to watch me. Close enough to kill me if they wanted. I got in my car and locked the doors. My breath fogged the windshield. 36 hours. 36 hours for what? To run. To hide. To come home and face whatever nightmare waited there. Well, I wasn't going home. Not yet. I reached into my bag and pulled out the only thing that mattered. The folded note the fake doctor had given me. Don't go home. Run. If he wasn't Dr. Hale, then why help me? Why warn me? Unless he wasn't with them. Unless he was running too. A thought hit me so suddenly I gasped. If the clinic didn't know who he was, if he impersonated a doctor to get to me, then maybe he left something behind. Something I wasn't supposed to see. Something that explained the scan, the panic, the urgency. The clinic might be watched, might be dangerous, but it was the only place that had answers. I gripped the steering wheel. There was only one choice now. I had to go back to the clinic. Not home. Not the motel. Back to where this nightmare started. Back to the room that wasn't supposed to exist. Back to the man who didn't exist. And back to whatever he left behind. Before the 36 hours ran out. I kept replaying the doctor's words in my head. Don't go home. Run. That sentence crawled through my mind like a cold insect. Every time I blinked, I saw his trembling handwriting on the note. Every breath felt borrowed. Every step felt watched. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened next. I left the clinic, clutching my bag so tight my fingers shook. The parking lot looked normal, almost too normal. A few cars coming and going, a mother loading groceries, a teenager scrolling on her phone. And yet, something felt wrong. The air tasted heavy. When I reached my car I hesitated. The windows were tinted, but not enough to hide shapes. I leaned closer and squinted. Someone was sitting in the back seat. My stomach collapsed. Shadow. Broad shoulders. Completely still. For a moment I couldn't move. My brain refused to accept it. I didn't unlock the doors, the car was exactly where I left it. And yet someone was inside. I stepped back slowly, trying to breathe quietly. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone. But before I could dial anyone, the shadow shifted. A low voice came from inside the car. "Don't scream." Froze. My knees almost gave out. Then the back door opened. A man stepped out, tall, built, wearing dark clothes and a baseball cap pulled low. His face wasn't fully visible, but his presence alone was enough to make every instinct in my body scream run. But I couldn't. Not when he raised his hands and said, "Please. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here because of your husband." My breath stopped. My husband. The same man who had been acting distant. The same man who had started locking his phone. The same man who last night told me I was imagining things when I asked if something was wrong. The stranger closed the car door quietly, as if trying not to draw attention. "Your house isn't safe," he whispered. "And the doctor, he didn't lie." My throat tightened. "Who are you?" He glanced around nervously. "Someone who worked with your husband. Someone who knows what he's been hiding." I stepped back another inch. "What do you want from me?" He looked me straight in the eyes. "Proof that you're in danger." Those words rattled inside my skull. "What do you mean danger? From who?" "My husband." He didn't answer. Instead, he motioned for me to follow him toward a corner of the parking lot, behind a row of cars shielding us from view. My instincts battled. Fear versus curiosity, survival versus answers. Against every logical thought, I followed. He pulled out his phone and showed me something. Video. A video I never should have seen. My husband sat at a table with two strangers, men who looked cold, calculating, the kind of people who don't smile unless someone else is suffering. My husband leaned forward, whispering intensely. But the moment that ripped the air out of my lungs was when he said, "She won't be a problem soon." My heart cracked. I felt dizzy, nauseous, betrayed beyond comprehension. The stranger paused the video. "I took this because I realized what he was planning," he said. "And when your doctor saw the bruises on your ribs, the ones you said you got from slipping in the bathroom, he knew better. He heard things. He saw signs. He knew you were being watched. That's why he warned you." I swallowed hard, remembering the doctor's wide-eyed panic, the way he shoved the note into my hand. "But why me?" I whispered. The stranger looked at me with something between pity and urgency. "Because your husband made a deal. Dangerous one. And to get out of it, he offered you." My legs gave out. I fell to the pavement, unable to breathe. Offered me. My own husband. My partner. My confidant. My everything for 12 years. The man knelt beside me. "You need to listen. They're coming tonight. If you had gone home." Car engine revved nearby. The man stiffened, eyes narrowing. "They found us." He grabbed my arm gently but firmly. "Run. Now." And before I could process anything, before I could ask another question, before I could scream, I heard footsteps rushing toward us. And a voice I recognized. A voice that shattered everything. "Honey, what are you doing out here?" My husband. He was already here. Already smiling. Already pretending. And I understood, in that moment, that the nightmare was only beginning. My husband's voice slipped into the air like poison wrapped in honey. "Honey, what are you doing out here?" Turn slowly. He was walking toward us with a casual smile, hands in his pockets, as if we had simply bumped into each other at the grocery store. Not in a parking lot where a stranger had just told me my life was in danger. The stranger beside me tensed. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my teeth. My husband's eyes flicked to the man kneeling next to me. His smile didn't move, but something behind it shifted. Something sharp, something calculating, something I had never seen before. "Sir," the stranger said quietly, rising to his feet. "You need to stay back." My husband laughed lightly. "Stay back? From my own wife? Who exactly do you think you are?" The stranger stepped in front of me, blocking my husband's view. "I'm trying to keep her safe." My husband's smile dropped. Completely. The transformation was instant. From charming husband to something colder, darker, hollow. "Sweetheart," he said, voice lowering. "Come here." Every fiber of my body told me not to move. I stood behind the stranger, trembling, unable to speak. My husband's gaze locked onto mine, and for the first time in our 12 years together, I saw nothing familiar in his eyes. "Who is this man?" he asked, almost bored. My throat closed. I couldn't answer. Instead, the stranger did. "Someone who knows what you've been planning." My husband's jaw flexed. A tiny motion, almost imperceptible, but enough to make my stomach twist. "What I've been planning," he repeated. "Please. My wife gets confused sometimes." He said it calmly, like he'd practiced the line. Like he was prepared for this exact moment. The stranger stepped forward. "I have the footage. The meeting. The recordings. She knows." My husband blinked once, slowly. Then he smiled again, but this time it was wrong. Too stretched. Too controlled. Too empty. "Well then," he said, "I suppose this conversation ends here." He snapped his fingers. From behind 2 parked cars, 2 men stepped out. The same men from the video. My blood turned to ice. The stranger grabbed my wrist. "Run!" He pulled me between cars, sprinting, weaving through rows, trying to stay out of sight. Behind us, I heard my husband shout, "Don't let her get away." My knees burned, my chest tightened, my heart hammered violently, but I forced myself to keep running. The stranger kept me upright, practically dragging me at times. We ducked behind a delivery truck. He pressed a finger to his lips. "Stay quiet." Footsteps echoed around us. Heavy, determined, getting closer. I covered my mouth, trying to silence my breathing. The stranger peeked around the truck, then immediately pulled back, eyes widening. "They're splitting up," he whispered. "They're trying to corner us." My pulse skyrocketed. "What do they want with me?" "Breathe." He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. "It's not just about you," he finally said. "It's about what your husband did. He promised them something. A way out of a deal gone bad. And he used you as..." He exhaled shakily. "As payment." My stomach lurched. My skin crawled. Every moment of my marriage flashed before my eyes. The good, the bad, the subtle shifts I ignored. My husband's sudden interest in my schedule. His comments about life insurance. His insistence that I stop visiting my sister so often. The new locks on his office drawer. It all made horrifying sense now. The stranger grasped my shoulders. "Listen. I know you're scared. But we're not safe here. We have to get off the ground. We have to disappear." "And go where?" I whispered. He scanned the parking lot. "We need a public place. Lots of cameras, witnesses, people. They won't risk creating a scene." Just then a voice echoed through the lot. Amplified, controlled, smiling. "Come out, sweetheart. No one needs to get hurt." My husband, calling for me like I was a lost puppy. Then his tone dropped. Sharp, venomous, meant only for me. "But you will come out." The stranger grabbed my hand again. "This way." We darted between cars, keeping low, until we reached the street beyond the lot. Cars passed, people walked dogs, normal life continued. Completely unaware that my world was collapsing. We reached the sidewalk. The stranger loosened his grip, but didn't let go entirely. "You need to trust me," he said quietly. "I can keep you alive. But once we step into the open, everything changes." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. But just as we prepared to move, car screeched to a stop in front of us. Passenger window rolled down. My husband sat inside. His smile was gone. His eyes were stone. And his voice was a whisper of pure threat. "Get in the car. Now." The stranger stepped between us, standing tall. And I realized, this was no longer a chase. This was war. The stranger didn't move. He stood between me and my husband's car like a human shield, muscles tight, jaw clenched, ready for impact. My husband stared at him with a look I had never seen before. Not anger, not fear, but recognition. Like two hunters who had finally crossed paths. The engine hummed. The street lamp above us flickered, casting eerie shadows across the pavement. For a moment, the whole world felt suspended, silent, breathless, waiting for the first strike. My husband leaned his elbow casually against the window. "Move," he said to the stranger, his voice low and steady. "You've done enough damage." The stranger didn't budge. "She's not going with you," he replied. My husband chuckled, a cold, hollow sound that didn't reach his eyes. "Oh, she is. See, she doesn't have a choice." He turned his gaze to me. And that's when I saw it, the truth dripping from his smile like venom. This wasn't panic. This wasn't desperation. This was control. The same control he had always used on me, but masked behind charm, marriage, and promises. He's been doing this for years, I realized. Manipulating, hiding, planning. The stranger took a step back, positioning himself closer to me. "Get behind me," he whispered. But my legs felt like concrete. My body refused to move. My husband sighed loudly. "Sweetheart, let's not make a scene. You know how emotional you can get." My blood boiled. Even now, even after he'd sent men to capture me, he was still trying to gaslight me. "No," I whispered, finally finding my voice. "I'm not going with you." He froze. And then slowly, painfully slowly, he smiled. "That's cute," he said. "You think you're making decisions now." He lifted his hand. Signal. From behind us, footsteps erupted. Fast, pounding, approaching. The two men from the parking lot were circling around, closing in. The stranger grabbed my hand. "We move now," he said. We sprinted across the street as the headlights of my husband's car flashed violently. The stranger shoved me behind a mailbox as one of the men lunged, barely missing my arm. The stranger swung, landing a punch that knocked the man off balance. My husband's car door slammed shut. The engine roared. He was coming after us. The stranger grabbed my shoulders. "Listen to me. The only thing that matters right now is staying where he can't isolate you. Public spaces, crowds, cameras. Understand?" I nodded, breathless, terrified. We dashed toward a convenience store at the corner. Bright lights, people inside, open doors. Safety. Oh. But as we reached the sidewalk, my husband's car swerved violently, blocking our path. He stepped out, slamming the door behind him. He wasn't smiling anymore. He looked frustrated, cornered, dangerous. "Enough," he barked. "You're coming with me. Now." The stranger stepped in front of me again. "Not happening." My husband stared him down. "You really think you can protect her? You have no idea what you're involved in. You don't know what she knows." The stranger tilted his head. "I know enough." My husband took a slow step toward him. "That video. The one you think is so damning." He laughed. "It doesn't show everything. It doesn't show why. It doesn't show who I'm protecting." I frowned. "Protecting? From who?" His eyes swung to me. "From yourself," he said. The words hit like a slap. Before I could respond, the stranger whispered, "Don't listen. He's stalling." But my husband wasn't finished. "You think she's innocent," he said, his voice rising. "You think she doesn't lie. She's been hiding things for years." I swallowed. Hard. "What things?" he asked. His expression softened eerily. "Sweetheart, you don't remember. But I do." The stranger shook his head. "He's manipulating you. He's trying to confuse you." But my husband continued, stepping closer. "Tell him," he said softly. "Tell him about the night you disappeared for 3 hours and came home with blood on your shirt." The ground tilted beneath me. My lungs tightened. "What?" "Breathe." "You don't remember?" he asked, tilting his head like a disappointed parent. "Of course you don't. You never remember when you mess up." The stranger's jaw locked. "He's lying." My husband smirked. "Oh, is he?" "Oscar, go ahead." The stranger looked at me, really looked at me. Was there a night like that? I opened my mouth, then closed it. Because suddenly, horrifyingly, a memory flickered in my head. Flash of red. My trembling hands. Cold air. My husband grabbing my wrists, whispering, "Shoo, don't say a word." My stomach lurched. The stranger saw my face. "What did he make you do?" My husband laughed sharply. "Oh, she knows exactly what she did." "I didn't do anything." I cried, but it came out too fast, too raw, too uncertain. My husband pointed at me. "See. She doesn't even trust herself." The stranger took my hands, steadying me. "You're not the person he says you are," he whispered. "This is psychological warfare. He's twisting your memories." My husband rolled his eyes. "Warfare? Please. She's always been fragile. That's why this is happening." "No," the stranger said firmly. "This is happening because you got caught." My husband lunged. The stranger pushed me aside, intercepting him. The two crashed into the hood of the car, fists flying, metal denting under the force. I stumbled back, grabbing the edge of a street sign, my vision swimming. People began to notice. Phones went up. Voices called out. Footsteps approached. The stranger shouted, "Get inside the store. Now!" I turned, and right at that moment, my husband snatched something from his pocket. A glint. Metal. Dark. A knife. My scream ripped through the night. The stranger saw it 1 second before the blade struck. He blocked the attack, but the knife sliced across his arm. Blood sprayed. He gritted his teeth and slammed my husband into the pavement. The crowd rushed closer. My husband thrashed, snarling like an animal. "You're dead," he roared at the stranger. "And she's coming with me." Police sirens suddenly echoed in the distance. Someone must have called them. The crowd gasped. Phones recorded. Doors opened. This was no longer something my husband could hide. The stranger grabbed my hand again. "We go," he said softly. "Right now." I nodded, shaking, bleeding emotionally, barely holding myself together. As we slipped into the crowd, disappearing behind bodies and noise, my husband screamed after me. "You think you're safe. You think this ends. It doesn't end. You have no idea what's coming." But for the first time since that doctor handed me the note, I believed he was wrong. The night tasted like metal, sharp, cold, and strangely electric, as I stepped deeper into the abandoned facility. The concrete floor sloped downward the farther I walked, and every step made it painfully clear that this place wasn't meant to be found. Not by accident, and definitely not by someone like me. The flashlight I'd taken from the doctor flickered, once, twice, as if something was interfering with it. Not draining it, distorting it. The beam tugged sideways, bending faintly toward the left wall, like gravity had shifted an inch to the side. Then I saw it. A door. A door that absolutely, unquestionably had not existed the first time I walked down this hallway. It was metal, matte black, seamless. No handle. No hinges. Just a glowing red outline around the frame, like the light was bleeding outward from inside the room. I approached slowly, my pulse hammering so violently I could almost feel it in my teeth. As I got closer, the temperature dropped so sharply my breath turned white. A low hum vibrated inside the door. Steady, controlled, mechanical, but underneath it was something else. A rhythm. Faint tremor. Almost like breathing. The doctor had warned me. Don't go home. Run. But he never said where to run. And here I was, following a breadcrumb trail straight into madness. I lifted my hand toward the door. It didn't have a touchpad or scanner, but when my fingers were an inch from the surface, the glow intensified, responding to me. The metal warmed, then pulsed, and the door slid open. All on its own. A gust of icy air rushed past me, and the lights overhead flickered violently. For a moment the entire hallway flashed bright white, so bright I had to shield my eyes. When the lights stabilized, the hallway behind me looked longer. Too long. As if the distance to the exit had doubled. There was no turning back now. Maybe physically, Maybe psychologically. Either way, something had locked me onto this path. I stepped inside. The room was large, larger than the outside dimensions should have allowed, and filled with panels of thick glass. Behind each panel was something wrong. Not monstrous, not alien. Just wrong in a way that human eyes weren't built to process. Shapes that moved like people but whose limbs bent at unnatural angles. Figures standing still, yet vibrating. Shadows that didn't match the bodies casting them. One of them turned toward me, and its head rotated too far, too smoothly. I stumbled back, hitting a metal table. Paper scattered across it, and I recognized the header on one page instantly. The same medical institute logo I'd seen on my patient file. But the words beneath it, they froze the breath in my lungs. Subject 12. Response to stimulus. Host memories. Maintaining stability. Phase 3. Contact initiated. Host. Memories. Stability. I wasn't supposed to be here because I wasn't supposed to know any of this. Suddenly, a monitor crackled to life on the far side of the room. The static cleared, shaping into the face of the doctor, the same man who'd slipped me the note. He looked frantic, breathing hard, sweat dripping down his temples. "Listen carefully," he said, voice shaking. "You're inside Wing C Delta. We lost control of it last week. The things inside, call them echoes. They're not alive, not dead, not stable. They're copies. Failed copies." He leaned closer to the camera. "They were never supposed to interact with their originals." My blood iced over. Originals. Copies. What are you talking about? He swallowed hard. You. The room tilted slightly. Me. Yes. You were part of the program. Or God, I don't have time, your other self was. I backed away from the screen, shaking my head. No, I'm not part of anything. I came here because you told me to run. I told you to run, he whispered. Because the moment the system recognized you near the facility, it activated the convergence protocol. It's pulling you in. It wants you reunited with. A deafening alarm blared overhead. Red lights filled the room. And every humanoid shape behind the glass snapped toward me in perfect synchronization. The doctor shouted through the screen. "Don't let them touch you. If they reach you, it completes the cycle." The glass in the nearest chamber cracked once, then burst outward. A figure stepped free. Cold. Limbs too smooth, face too still. And it looked exactly like me. My chest squeezed so tight I thought my ribs would break. The copy tilted its head, studying me the way a scientist observes a new species. Then its mouth stretched into a slow, unnatural smile. The doctor screamed through the speakers. "Run!" But the door behind me slammed shut. Sealed. Trapping me inside with the thing that wore my face.